Born from a writer of a cable masterpiece and part of television's most famous lineup, Just Shoot Me was a much bigger success than most people realize. It pulled in more than 15 million viewers at its peak, earned Emmy nominations, and performed so consistently that it looked like it could just keep going on forever. So why did it crash and burn so hard and so fast? Well, you'd be hard-pressed to find a show more fumbled by a network than this one. NBC's mishandling of Just Shoot Me started early, kept going, and got so bad that the creator, who is a modern-day TV legend, went to the press about it, then refused to work with the network again, a decision that would come back to haunt them. You'll see why in this, the rise and epic crash of Just Shoot Me. Now, before we start, give this video a quick like if you watched Just Shoot Me back in the day, and subscribe for more retro TV deep dives. So this show was destined for greatness out of the gate because of its origin, the writer's room of HBO's The Larry Sanders Show. Creator Steven Levitan was writing for Garry Shandling's groundbreaking show when the seed of an idea for a new show sprouted. He had once pictured a scene where Janeane Garofalo's character had to sit and talk with a vapid model with whom she had nothing in common. This scene never happened on Larry Sanders, but he held on to the idea and eventually pitched it as a series to NBC. He imagined the perfect setting to trap the protagonist and the model together in their shared misery, a fictional high-end fashion magazine called Blush. NBC liked the idea because it felt distinct from the other must-see TV shows, yet would pair well with Frasier and Friends. The protagonist, Maya, would be played by San Giacomo, who takes a job at her father's fluff empire out of desperation after sabotaging a news broadcast. Wendie Malick played her supermodel foil, Nina Van Horn. Maya's dad, Jack, the media mogul owner of the magazine, was played by George Segal, and Enrico Colantoni won the role of the warm and gentle photographer, Elliot. But after they filmed the pilot, something was missing. NBC came back and said the show needed more comedic edge, and they had one actor in mind, David Spade. So at this point, David Spade had just finished his run on SNL where he was a standout. He had no shortage of job offers, and he wasn't too excited about Just Shoot Me. You see, Finch, the character created for him, was an assistant. In Spade's mind, his first big sitcom role should be a character with actual status, like an executive in a corner office. He didn't want to get typecast as an assistant, since he'd already played that kind of role in Tommy Boy opposite Chris Farley. But Levitan knew that would be comedic poison. He convinced Spade that the power of the character didn't come from the title, but from the insignificance. He said, if you have actual power, you're not as funny. If you're the assistant, you're the underdog. And when you insult people from the bottom up, the audience stays on your side. Spade eventually saw the light, they reshot the pilot, and Spade's presence changed everything. As George Segal said, the show did not come together until David joined us. That was the spark. And with that, NBC fast-tracked the show in March 1997, airing the first season, 6 episodes, get this, within a single month to test its viability. If audiences didn't take a liking to it early, Just Shoot Me was as good as done. And in season 1, it averaged 8.1 million viewers and ranked number 64 in the Nielsen's, just good enough for NBC to renew it for a second season and put it right after Frasier at 9:30. The show performed so well in its new time slot that NBC gave it an even better one, between Friends and Seinfeld. Now that's like being in a band and getting to play between the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. Like, you're going to get a big audience. And they did. They averaged 11.66 million viewers and were the number 12 show in the country. And in season 3, something almost happened that likely would have completely changed the show's legacy. So when Seinfeld ended in 1998, its 9 p.m. Thursday time slot was now available, and Just Shoot Me was one of the contenders to take it. Just Shoot Me had consistently won its time slot. It had youth appeal and momentum, but ultimately NBC erred on the side of prestige. They moved their Emmy darling Frasier into the 9 p.m. slot to anchor the night with awards credibility. Just Shoot Me was moved to Frasier's old 9 p.m. Tuesday slot instead. So yeah, this obviously would have been a crowning moment for Just Shoot Me that just wasn't meant to be. Still, the show continued to draw big viewership numbers, averaging 11.4 million viewers in season 3. But a trend was emerging that would eventually hurt the show. NBC would not keep Just Shoot Me in a regular time slot. It wasn't treated like a star, it was treated like a utility player, the kind of show the network could just move wherever it needed and still perform well. Take season 4 for example. NBC shifted it from Tuesdays at 8, then later to 9:30 p.m. It still drew 11.7 million viewers, but all that moving around created tension. The cast and crew were feeling abandoned by the network. And when Steven Levitan stepped away from the day-to-day operations in season 4, those feelings only intensified. In season 5, NBC moved Just Shoot Me again, back to Thursdays between Will and Grace and ER, and the ratings hit their all-time high, 15.61 million viewers per night. This show was Teflon. NBC could do whatever it wanted with it, and it just kept going. And it wasn't until season 6 when NBC appeared to have finally gotten their act together and decided to leave the show in its time slot. It kept its Thursday 9:30 slot for the entire season, and it pulled in 14.4 million viewers on average, ranked in the top 20. And this is something people don't realize. To be in the top 20 with almost 15 million viewers after 6 seasons is rare. And you had to think that with ratings strong and a regular time slot, this show had another 3 seasons left in it. At 9 seasons, it would be in rare company. But then the wheels came off in spectacular fashion. We're talking one of the biggest crash and burn moments I've ever covered on this channel. First, the creative direction changed. Showrunners Moses Port and David Garaccio, the architects of the show's voice at its peak, departed at the end of season 6 to pursue a development deal with NBC. They were replaced by a team of writers from Spin City, Home Improvement, and Coach, not hacks by any means, but different. Then NBC went back to its old ways and moved Just Shoot Me back to Tuesdays at 8. Now, while the show had survived all the other moves, Tuesday 8 p.m. was considered a death slot against tough competition, with almost no promotional support from the network. Here's why. Things at NBC were changing. Jeff Zucker had become president of NBC Entertainment in 2000, and by 2002-2003, he was pivoting NBC toward cheaper, unscripted hit shows like The Apprentice and Fear Factor. A sitcom like Just Shoot Me in its 7th season was expensive. Veteran actors with massive salaries. Whereas getting Joe Rogan to get people to eat sheep's eyes, yes, that really happened, had better bang for their buck. So by season 7, Zucker pretty much saw the show as a declining asset. And if that weren't enough, the next move NBC made infuriated everyone involved and sent the show spiraling. They ordered that actress Rena Sofer be added to the cast. NBC had been trying to find a successful vehicle for Sofer for years. She was a soap opera veteran, a daytime Emmy winner from General Hospital, and the network had been cycling her through primetime shows looking for something that would stick. And they decided that season 7 of Just Shoot Me was the perfect launchpad. But it was a mismatch. Just Shoot Me was built on fast, cynical comedy, the kind that grows from characters who've developed a shared language over years. Sofer's character Vicky was written as a straight-talking outsider. Now, on paper, that might sound like interesting friction. In practice, it didn't work. Not her fault, just wrong character, wrong time. And the ratings collapsed. The show dropped from, get this, 20th to 107th. NBC put the show on hiatus in December after just a handful of episodes to stop the bleeding. They aired 2 more episodes in January, they tanked too, and at that point NBC said so long to Sofer, who was written out of the series entirely. But it was too late. The show was dead in the water. NBC decided to cancel the show. Network president Jeff Zucker personally promised Levitan, who was still executive producer, that the network would run the remaining episodes twice a week through to the finale as part of a Return of Just Shoot Me campaign in April. But after the first installment underperformed, the show was yanked from the air yet again. All of the episodes Levitan was promised would air would ultimately be burned off in the summer as an afterthought. The finale, Future Issues, which Levitan had written as a proper series send-off featuring Jack's retirement and a genuine goodbye for these characters, aired on a random Saturday in August 2003. Then there were 3 more episodes, including Sofer's farewell episode, which weren't aired until later in the year through syndication. By the time it was all over, despite being a hit show for 6 seasons, Just Shoot Me had occupied 11 different time slots, and it didn't get a proper goodbye. Naturally, all of this made Levitan livid. telling Daily Variety and The Hollywood Reporter that Zucker's word had meant nothing, calling the cancellation a real slap in the face to the show and its crew. He asked publicly, "Where has all the dignity and integrity gone in this business?" And he meant it. He never launched a show with NBC again, which they'd regret. He went to ABC, where he co-created Modern Family, which ran for 11 seasons, won the Emmy for Outstanding Comedy Series 5 consecutive years, and became one of the most successful sitcoms of this millennium. It, unlike Just Shoot Me, is a show that people will talk about for a long time. And that is the frustrating part of Just Shoot Me's legacy. There's a world where it gets Seinfeld's Thursday time slot in 1998 instead of Frasier, where NBC doesn't blow up a top 20 show in its 7th season by forcing in a new cast member nobody asked for and yanking it from the slot where it was thriving. If that doesn't happen, it could have got another 2 to 3 seasons and we might be having a completely different conversation right now. But instead, it sits firmly not in the TV Hall of Fame, but in the Hall of Very Good. A model of consistency that was unceremoniously shown the door, just like every model at Blush.